Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to be looking at the CBLDF Presents Liberty Comics, number 1 and number 2. These were published in 2008, 2009, and they were benefit comics. All the proceeds from this went to the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, and all the contributors gave freely of their art, writing and art. It was all donated. So I imagine they probably got a nice chunk of change from this. Comic Book Legal Defense Fund has been around since, I believe, the 90s, early 90s, and they've been helping out retail stores that get busted because of local obscenity laws, all kinds of First Amendment issues, especially when how it deals with comics. Because comics run into this more than other forms of media, because people still think of comics as children's literature. So if there's anything slightly racy in a comic, people will say, kids could be reading this. It's like, yeah, they could be reading books too, or watching movies. But there's more money involved in those industries. Comics can't really defend themselves. That's why the CBLDF was started. And they do things like this to raise funds. So let's check out the first issue. Here's number 1, big First Amendment issue. Beautiful Mike Mignola cover, as that's all he can do. All of his covers are amazing. I think this is pretty funny how Hellboy's been changed to Heck Boy, and he's just like crap. Of course, we see the monkeys, the see no evil, hear no evil, burp no evil. Here's the contents page. This is designed by Richard Starkings of Comic Craft, and you can totally tell. It's so distinctive, his design style. He kind of did this a lot around this time. He was the go-to guy. It looks kind of good to me. It's nice and, I don't know, easy to read. Sorry, guys. We start off with a story of The Boys by writer Garth Ennis and artist Derek Robertson, the normal team of the Boys. And it's basically, we see Huey here, and he's addressing the reader, saying, guys, CBLDF is very important. If we want everyone out there to send $5. If you don't, we're going to start offing superheroes. We're going to pay them a little visit and fuck them up. And he hears a scream, and this is the female. That's what they call her. That's one of the boys. And he's like, oh shit, we're too late. Female jumped the gun. So we see that she's ripped off Wonder Woman's face, or a doppelganger thereof. And then we see Mother's Milk, another character from The Boys. He's doused Wolverine in gasoline. He's about to set him on fire. The Frenchman has got, obviously, it looks like he's chopped off the Hulk's testicles and is holding them in his hand. And then Butcher shows up with his cute little dog, Terror. And he basically says, don't make me sick Terror on one of these guys. And he just says, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. So we see Terror mounting Crypto. Poor Crypto, that's not cool. I love Crypto. So, and then, basically he wraps it up and says, see what'll happen if you don't donate to us, to the CBLDF. Kind of fun. Very Garth Ennis-y, over-the-top humor. Next, we have the first of 5 Tales of Comic Book Censorship by Sergio Aragonés and Mark Evanier, the same team who do Gru. And also Stan Sakai on letters and Tom Luff on colors, just so it is the total Gru crew. It's basically Mark Evanier telling Sergio Aragonés tales of comic book history involving censorship. This one involves William M. Gaines, the EC Comics owner. He had a business partner, Lyle Stewart, I believe his name was. And I guess he made an enemy of a very famous columnist. This columnist tipped off the cops, lied, and said, oh, they're publishing smut at that EC place. And the cops raided EC Comics. And William M. Gaines hid in a closet the whole time. I think that's kind of a fun story. It's crazy. Oh, man, this is beautiful. So this is called The Deadly Book. It's written and drawn by Darwin Cook. Beautiful colors by Dave Stewart, as he is wont to do. And just seeing this really makes me miss Darwin Cook. He died so young. And God, he was so good. Look at just this perfect just design, storytelling. His style is just so fun and just, really misses this guy's art. And this is a pretty fun story. I love that even this logo, that looks like some Harvey Kurtzman comic from the 50s. Just everything about this is terrific. And so we see this young guy. He's a cat burglar, or at least he has all the accoutrements of a cat burglar, and he's stealing this book, the deadly book. All of a sudden, this old guy with a gun says, don't make me shoot you, boy. Get my book back. It's his grandfather. So he's stealing from his own grandfather. And just look at these great camera angles and everything. And so he escapes. The grandfather's shooting after him. And then while he's on the run, he kind of tells us the story of this deadly book. How as soon as the author finished writing it, he died. His widow was kind of flipping through it at the graveyard. The husband's graveside, I meant to say. She died. So everyone dies, the author's agent. And then it gets to the point where the police are investigating this. Of course, it's almost impossible because every time a police officer looks at the book, he dies. So, of course, it causes this huge furor in the public. It's interesting that, some people seek out the book, like old, infirm people who just want to die, kind of euthanasia. So, because I guess it works that effectively. I like this idea that this librarian was arrested because he was using it to murder women who had spurned his attentions. He'd change the cover, put a fake cover on it, and send it to women he was mad at, and then of course they'd open it up and die. So apparently his grandfather ended up with the book, the one copy, because they burned all the other copies. And this grandson escapes with aplomb. Another great panel. So this is so good looking to me. As he's going to sell it on eBay, he doesn't give a shit about books, and he decides to. He's like, the stories about this book are probably fake. I'm going to flip it open. Just check it out. And, of course, he walks right in front of a bus and is completely splattered. Another Tales of Comic Book Censorship. This one is about some head shop in the late 60s who got arrested for selling Zap comics to some guy who was 17. And so, of course, that was before the CBLDF. And that guy probably just had he probably just got fucked and had to go to jail. This is an interesting story. It's The House of Dracula. It's written by Mark Millar, and it's drawn by John Paul Leon. Another guy who died way too young. He was another great artist, too. John Paul Leon was kind of interesting because he had such a unique kind of old school style. Very stylized, but he pretty much worked for Marvel and DC. So even though his style did not look like any house style of any Marvel DC artist, definitely doing his own thing. But this one looks a little slicker. Didn't even know this was John Paul Leon until I looked at the contents page. It's not bad, though. It's pretty nice. So this is just a weird little character piece about Dracula. And he's basically just a sad old man who watches daytime TV, kind of kvetches about things. He has to go to the doctor all the time, complains about his ailments, and eats his crappy little meals of like tomato soup and toast, just like old people. He always just eats sad, boring shit. The neighborhood kids kind of pick on him, throw rocks at his window. Very interesting idea. And basically at the end, he's lying in bed and he says, immortality forever can feel like a very long time some days. So you realize that it would kind of suck to live forever if you're just a sad old man. This is a really beautiful 2-page centerfold of Monkey Man and O'Brien by Arthur Adams. And we see this character named Anti-Censorship, A-U-N-T-Y, get it? And she's binding up O'Brien in red tape. And we see all of these kind of proponents of censorship throughout the world. We see like the Taliban-looking guys, Christian ministers, televangelists, fat cat type guys. and they're all united because they want to censor stuff. This placard says, "Women and gorillas living together? What should I tell my child?" Man, Art Adams is so good at drawing the female form. It's amazing. I just thought of the dorkiest thing right now. It's like, oh man, I'd love to read a comic where Jaime Hernandez's women meet one of Arthur Adams' women. I had to share with you because those thoughts still pop in my head. I'm 58. I'm such a dork. Another one of these Aragonés pieces. This one's about another bust at a comic store. It's kind of an interesting contribution. It's Rick Veitch, just kind of contributing this little poster. "Greetings from Slumberg, home of the Brat Pack." And we just see this very well-drawn boot. This is one of the sidekicks. I can't remember his name. He's a kid psycho or something. I don't know. And we see a little bloody tooth on the ground. Very nebulous. Very enigmatic. Next we have an Elephant Man story. Qui tacet consentire videtur, which is Latin. I'm sorry about how much I butchered that. "He who keeps silent appears to consent." Now, this is just like all the Elephant Man stuff. This is written by Richard Starkings. I think the only time he's ever written stuff is those Elephant Man comics. He's usually just a letterer. And drawn by Moritat, who's a very interesting artist who's just a total chameleon. I've seen so many different comics by Moritat that are drawn all differently every time. Not every time, but he's definitely he has a bunch of styles. This is pretty slick here with this almost like painted art, it looks like. So this is just whatever. This guy works for the government or is talking for the government. I don't read Elephant Men. I don't know who this is. We see one of those Elephant Men for one panel, even though it has nothing to do with the story. He's basically just saying how governments know what's best and you should just let them do what they want and just shut up because they can't do what they want to do if everyone's speaking up about it. So, when the Jews were taken to the camps in the Second World War, when the Tutsis were annihilated in Rwanda, nobody said much, and that's how they got away with it. So he's just basically telling us to shut up and mind our own business so that our leaders can keep leading us. This is Jay Bone, that cartoonist, and this is Gobukan, Silence is Golden. Here's kind of a cute little strip. I kind of like Jay Bone's art. It's very it's like great kids art. This looks like a children's book or something. And we see this guy there. I guess the government's handing out gags for people to wear around their mouth. Of course, this is way before COVID, so it's almost like he predicted that everyone would have to wear masks at one point. But then one Gobukan, I guess, he's an iconoclast. So he just wraps it around his waist like a belt, like a sash. And then all these kids emulate him and just wear it the way they want to, not necessarily gagging themselves. This one is nice. It's No One Rides for Free. It's a criminal omission. I like that. Instead of a criminal story, it's a criminal omission by Ed Brubaker, writer, and Sean Phillips, artist. Of course, the guys who do all the criminal stories. They've been doing them for, decades now. Sean Phillips is so great. I mean, let's just think how amazing this art is. This kind of hard-boiled film noir type art. But it's basically about a reporter who is working on a big story. He's about to wrap it up. It's a juicy story of a senator doing some shady land deal, very corrupt. He's going to blow the lid off of it. He goes to the roof to smoke a cigarette, and this guy shows up. Now, I don't have criminal books. Books from the criminal series. But I assume this is the guy. He's the criminal, because he is a criminal. He kind of knocks him on the head. When the reporter wakes up, he's on the roof. And he says, "Listen, shut up. You're going to listen to me. And or you're not getting off this roof alive." And this reporter is totally just like, "Anything you say, I don't want to die." So he basically tells him stories of other reporters who try to blow the lids, screw things up for powerful people and their misdeeds, and how they all met untimely deaths, kind of implying that he did it, that he was there. So it's pretty obvious, he makes his message clear. He says, "You know what I'm hoping the difference is between you and all those other journalists? they all had integrity. And I'm hoping you don't. And he's right. Look how what great that panel is there. That's just like really good art. Sean Phillips is really good at drawing faces. So the guy, you know, I mean, it's not like he lacks integrity just because he doesn't want to die, but yeah, he chickens out. He destroys all the notes from his story, and we see that he censors the story. We have another one of the Aragones Evanier pieces. This is telling us what the CBLDF do, actually. How they operate, how they use the donations they get to protect comic book stores, and also just freedom of speech in general. This is called The Auteur. It's written by Scott Dunbier, and it's drawn by Sean McManus. This is interesting to me because I don't have much Sean McManus artwork after the 90s. You know, he did some Sandman stuff with Gaiman. He the first time I saw him was on Swamp Thing, the old Alan Moore Swamp Things. And it seemed like he had more of like a Wrightson. He didn't really look like Wrightson, but you could tell he grew up liking Wrightson. It was a little influenced by him. So, you know, almost like Kelly Jones and Kyle Hotz, all those guys. He was a little cartoony, kind of very illustrative. But apparently in the late 2000s, he got very cartoony. I don't think this looks bad. It's pretty sharp cartooning, but I wouldn't have guessed this was this is Sean McManus. Definitely not the one I used to read when I was younger. This is just about a filmmaker who started off as like an auteur. You know, his short film won the Cannes Film Festival. Everyone was impressed. And then he just totally sells out and makes a stupid blockbuster movie. And he doesn't even realize that he sold his soul. He's like, I'm being true to my artistic vision. But he's making some stupid movie called Captain Carnage, which is just dumb, you know. So now we see the cover by Mike Mignola and colored by Dave Stewart. I didn't mention that. Without the logo. And then we see the variant cover, because both of these have two covers. And this is J. Scott Campbell, Danger Girl. I kind of, a very guilty pleasure of mine is I kind of like J. Scott Campbell's good girl art. I think I don't own any Danger Girl comics. And but I think my brother did, and I used to read his, and I was like, I kind of like these. It's just, they're fun. And he just draws women really great. And I was very lonely then. I had no girlfriend. So they were my paper dolls, if you will. God, I'm so lame. But yeah, it was not many people I know like those comics. And it's not like I even own them. But if you put a Danger Girl comic in front of me, I'd probably read it. Here's the last one of those Evanier and Aragones things. The last joke is that they get arrested by the cops for creating a mad slasher who wears no pants, a comic about Gru. He's referring to Gru. And as they get hauled off to the police car, they're yelling, "Someone call the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund." This is kind of a little bonus here. This is an ad for the CBLDF, which is, I've seen this in many magazines. You probably have too. But I've rarely seen it in color. And it's Frank Miller, so you got a little extra Frank Miller drawing in the back cover there. Here's Liberty Comics number 2, or I should say the CBLDF presents Liberty Comics number 2. And we start off with the Tim Sale cover. Another guy who died too young. Man, I think there's a curse about Liberty Comics. Contents page, and then we start off with the first censor, written by Jason Aaron, and art by Moritad again. And see, look how different this art is from that other one. It's got this weird fuzzy thing going on. It kind of looks cool as hell. This definitely looks like a children's book to me, this art, but a really well-drawn one. So we see this caveman, and I don't mention how there's dinosaurs in the background. I know cavemen and dinosaurs didn't coexist, but who cares? And this guy's going around kind of correcting everyone. Like, these guys are going, "Ugga, ugga, hug, ooga, booga." And he comes up and says, "No, ooga, booga. Say, ugga, issy, sissy," instead. And everyone, they're kind of like, what a dick. He sees two hot cave ladies, and he basically says, you show too much skin. And he makes them wear these things that look like burqas. He sees an artist on the, painting on the cave wall, drawing really beautifully, but he comes along and says, no, not good. Now there's good art. And, it's the cave paintings we're used to. simple stick figures. Because usually censors have shitty aesthetics. And then these two guys are, I think they're fighting just, and he comes along and says, no violence, violence bad, no bloodshed. They look at each other and then they beat the shit out of them with their clubs. That's the funny ending. This next thing is called Big Bad City, Big Bad World. Words by Ben McCool and art by Ben Templesmith. I really don't like this art and the coloring. It looks very computerized, and just something about it looks like hollow or feels hollow. It's just like, it's kind of cheesy to me. We basically see these two private dicks. They're hired to surveil this apartment or hotel room. It turns out because the mayor has been hanging out there, like doing kind of weird sex, making this woman dress up in a pig costume. It's actually the rival politician. So the two, the mayor and his main contender, they're having this illicit affair. And it's just these guys talking. Yeah, this rubs me the wrong way, all of this. Don't like it. It's not a bad story. It's just like kind of interesting dialogue, but nothing really happens. It's just them talking, taking pictures of this mayor. The mayor dies in the middle of coitus, and the woman doesn't even know for like half a minute that he's dead. And then when the woman takes off, okay, guys, I think I'm wrong about the woman being a political rival. I think I read that wrong. Because when the woman takes off her pig mask, one of the guys says, Mom? So it's just a really dumb, weird ending. I don't know. Not funny, to me at least. Next we have an atomic story, specifically Mr. Gum. This is Mike Allred's comic, The Atomics. But this one's really interesting. Mike Allred, pencils and inks. I don't know how they divided the duties, but it's Mike Allred and Dave Johnson collaborating on art. You can totally tell it's different than normal Mike Allred art. And the story's by Jamie S. Rich. And this is basically Mr. Gum is kind of accosted by these lawyers who work for a candy company that makes a gum called Mr. Gum. And they're basically saying that you never filed your copyright. You have to change your name. And Mr. Gum, of course, is just like, this sucks. I was Mr. Gum before you guys had the name for your dumb gum. But they're like, yeah, but you didn't register the copyright, so you got to change. So he just gets fed up and escapes. He blows himself up. If you couldn't tell, Mr. Gum is obviously Plastic Man. And then he goes home. He says, I'm not going to sell out and be, pitch your gum. Because they want him to pitch their gum. Since his name is Mr. Gum. He says, I'm not going to sell out. Find some tool who'll do it for you, some jerk. And it turns out they get Madman to do it. Madman gladly shills for them. There's the rest of the Atomics here. This is nice. This is a Place à Loverman. I think that's French. Place à Loverman. And Loverman is this huge, fat wrestler dude. The story begins with him waking up in a warehouse. Apparently, somebody poisoned his bouillabaisse at the restaurant, and he woke up there. Turns out that his captor is this woman, Gluteus Maximus. She's a supervillain. And she's there with her cohorts, the Red Doberman and the Strychnine Kid. And apparently, Gluteus Maximus, she fills us in. She says, careful, girls. Loverman has this amazing, odor. His pheromones are off the hook. And if you get too close, you'll fall instantly in love with him. So they're all, kind of arguing and talking about, what they're going to do with him. God, look at this great Paul Pope art. This is just amazing stuff. And the chair that Loverman is on breaks, so he's freed. He basically takes out the Gluteus Maximus. God, that's a great panel. The way her hair is flying upwards, mixing with the sound effect. So then Kid Strychnine, or the Strychnine kid, gets too close to him. She catches a whiff of him, and she falls in love with him. And she becomes his ally, his accomplice. She's like, I'll do anything to help you. I love you. So apparently they set a bomb in an orphanage, and she gives him the override code so he can stop it. It's a little note that says Bob Obo. He's like, Bob Obo? What does that mean? But then he flips it upside down as, 3090909 or something. Kind of thought that was kind of a cute little touch. He says, good thing I'm dyslexic. So then I guess he saves the day. And then he goes back to the Hall of Champions where his superhero buddies are all hanging out. And they're all like, dude, did you get to grab Gluteus Maximus's huge boobies? And he's all like, oh, I'm a gentleman. And then the other superhero basically says, never, the problem with Loverman is you put him between a sexy woman and a sandwich. He'll take the sandwich every time. This is an interesting one. It's Brian Wood. It's called Manhattan. I think it's kind of based in that world he created, DMZ. And it's basically just, like his very political stuff. It's almost like a government dossier, maybe to their agents, saying how to stop an insurrection before it even happens. Kind of boring, to be honest. This didn't do much for me. But I kind of like Brian Wood's like cool designy stuff. It looks kind of interesting. I just realized I totally misspoke. I don't think Brian Wood. No, Brian Wood is the guy who did DMC. Never mind. Forget I said that. This is by Stuart and Catherine Immerman. And I'm pretty sure Stuart Immerman did the art and Catherine helped him write it. This is called Trampoline Hall. Apparently, there was this thing in Toronto where there's this club, maybe a comedy type club, and they'd have 3 speakers appear on any given night during these Trampoline Hall nights. And the 3 speakers would deliver a speech about something they had no expertise whatsoever. They knew nothing about. And apparently it was very fun and funny. And so these are like just random. I think Stuart Immerman and Catherine Immerman just stood there writing down in notebooks every time they said something kind of interesting. I do really like this cartooning. Stuart Immerman's a very interesting cartoonist. And when he started, he was just a good superhero artist. But this is really interesting stuff. These character designs, and I love this panel here, this weird character here. So these are complete non sequiturs. To be honest, I didn't find any of them that funny or interesting. I mean, slightly interesting just because it's so weird. None of these people are my friends. What's done is done. Don't take no stony crumbs. Just like weird little things like that. Next, we have Painkiller Jane in Explosive. This is written by Jimmy Palmiotti, the creator of Painkiller Jane. Art by Jim Rugg. I've never read Painkiller Jane. To be honest, I never wanted to at all. I never had an urge to read that comic. But this was kind of fun. We see there's a hostage situation going on. I guess the police... Painkiller Jane's like the worst superhero in the world. Most people in the city hate her. But she, I guess, gets the job done. So the police have basically said, we'll let you go in there and see if you can get the hostages out safely. So it looks like there's an explosion. She flies out of the building onto these boxes so she's not hurt. And, I'm sorry, it's a hot dog stand. And she just grabs some hot dogs and starts eating them. The whole time this reporter is broadcasting the story, and she's basically insulting Painkiller Jane the whole time. Like, this woman's a menace. She's worse than the enemy she fights. How can this be allowed to happen, this crazy woman? So, I guess some of the terrorists escaped. So Painkiller Jane goes back into action. And it looks like her superpower is she just shoots people. That's her superpower. And she's her tits kind of hang out a lot. So finally, she saved the day, even though she's wounded. And this reporter just keeps ragging on her. And Painkiller Jane's right behind her. I don't know if she knows. And she basically tells this reporter off. But then she smacks a kiss on her. And then walks off. Kind of an interesting ending. Oh, this is the Weird World of Jack Staff. Britain's Greatest Hero by Paul Grist. I love these comics. I have a lot of Jack Staff. And I just love Paul Grist style. They're fun as hell. So this was a really fun story where it's the Tablet of Kush. This has been sought for centuries. The person who holds it has the power to render all those who oppose him speechless. So not only does this stone have that power to take your speech away, Paul Grist made the story with no words. Well, mostly. So we see him like Jack Staff. It's all pictograms. He's basically saying, bad guy, whatever this guy's name is. And he's saying, you're running out of time. You've run out of time. And then the Tablet of Kush, this kind of mystic hand, grabs Jack Staff's word balloon and tries to crush it. And Jack Staff says, clown. It's the pictogram. So it's not, I guess it's not working, but then it's because I think Jack Staff's friend, I think she's a wit, I don't know, like a sorceress or something, a magic user. And he's like, Helen Morgan, I thought you were dead. It's a tombstone. And she basically says, say goodbye. And she does some magic whammy. So the Stone of Kush takes his word balloon and nothing comes out. So he's just like mouthing nothing. Jack Staff knocks him unconscious. And she asks for the stone. And I guess Jack Staff says, nah, nobody should own this. Too many people want it. And he walks off. Here's another one of those pinups. It's Martha Washington, drawn by Dave Gibbons. Really nice drawing. There's some good Dave Gibbons art. Free speech worth fighting for. This is I Beg Your Pardon by China Clugston Flores. Pretty bad. It's just her ranting about all the people who drive her crazy, rude people, inconsiderate people. It's very like the level of like an Irma Bombeck book. God, do people even remember her? I'm so old. I don't know who the equivalent is today. But like, don't you hate people who do this? And, men who leave the toilet seat up. It's just like so cheesy, this level of humor. And the cartoon is kind of, So next we have the Apocalyptics in Taboo Boogaloo. I've never heard of this comic. I think it's an Oni Press comic. And it's drawn by Cameron Stewart, though, who I love his style. And his style over the years, I used to read that comic he did, Cyberella, when he first came out. And I liked his art then, but now he's really developed this amazing cartoony style. It does look very much like Jamie Hewlett, like kind of Tinkerly. This is written by Ray Fox, I should have mentioned. And so it's an apocalyptic world. I guess these three women, they're in a band and they roam the wasteland trying to get gigs. So they find this community, almost like a gated community. Everyone's very like, Leave It to Beaver. And they all wear these things around their neck. So if they ever say bad words, their head will explode. And they're all happy. They're just like, this is great. So everyone has to be nice and not say anything improper. So I guess they're desperate for entertainment, though. So they've worked out a deal with this band. And they're going to play a show for the community. And, of course, these girls are not PG rated. So they start singing songs. And we see these censored words. They're probably cussing. Now, all the people love it in the crowd. They're just like, wow, this is really interesting. The beat. And then one of the guitarists says, sing along, everybody. And, of course, when they do, their heads all explode. So the whole audience dies. This is a very weird one. It's next we have Neil Gaiman contributed this basically little poem, and Jim Lee illustrated it. So it's like Jim Lee trying to draw like serious. It kind of just looks like a really talented high school senior in his art journal or something. It's just a a little poem with like 100 words to talk of death, at once too much and not enough. My plans beyond that final breath are currently a little rough. So, you know, that kind of couplet form. It's talking about death. I mean, Jim Lee's can draw, but it's something about this just looks so like, I don't know, kind of sophomoric. Right after saying that, I turned the page, and this is amazing. Sorry. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. Jim Lee's great. It's just weird, I guess, seeing him draw like something that's not all superhero-y. And that's a really well-drawn hand, which everyone knows is the hardest thing to draw. He's got his chops. When I am dead and finished with my 100 words. Oops, I forgot the first part of that. And when I do put down my pen, my memories will fly like birds. When I am done, when I am dead, and finished with my 100 words. So here's the variant cover that I didn't get. It's John Romita Jr. drawing Kick-Ass. And there's the front cover without the logo. So there you go, guys. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to say the CBLDF Presents Liberty Comics number 1 and 2. Now, the next year after this, in 2010, they changed the name to Liberty Annual. And I think there's been one every year for quite a while. Maybe they finally stopped doing them. But there's at least 6 or 7 going all the way up to the late teens. I don't have them all. So that's why I'm just looking at these two. I mean, technically, it is the complete run of this Liberty Comics, because they did change the name to Liberty Annual. But one day when I get them all, I always find these in 50-cent bins. It's a really good find, or I'm sorry, dollar bins. It's a really good find because they always got good stuff in them. So if you ever see them, they're always worth snagging for at least 1 or 2 stories. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe one day if I finish all those, then again, I might just show them off anyway. Eventually, I'm going to run out of complete runs to show you guys. I'll just have to show you piecemeal stuff, you know, titles. Hope you guys like looking at these today. I think it was kind of fun revisiting these. They're kind of way more interesting than I remembered. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy Comic Book Studies.